So this is the Mask Museum, as you can tell by the mask. I, by the way,
It was
own
beautiful.
one of those masks. I'm pretty excited
Oh,
about it. Yeah, I like that one. It was a pickup. But yeah, let's show people the museum. So the first one was called Word on the Street. And I don't know. I want to like talk about our masks just for a second as like Hashi owners before we
look
talk
at
about
those.
all the other masks. I love my mask
Those are
because
the
it has a book.
those are the best masks in the collection, I think, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
I don't think I could name better masks.
So, like, what appeals to you the most about your masks, besides obviously being that awesome?
I really like the color combination. I think the yellow background and then the golden robot yellow really helps the red dragon mask stick out. I don't know, I
Yeah,
feel like it's a very powerful, very expressive mask.
yeah, I
What about
agree.
you?
And the golden eyes too, right? Because they come right through.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Well, I mean, like you, it's not lost on me that all of these are animal masks. The three of us.
true. Wow.
Yeah, I love the animal masks. And I also love the color palette of mine. I think the skin tone of my character is gray, and then it goes right into that gray mask. And also, mine doesn't have any hair features. Like, actually, the three of these don't. And I like that personally for myself, because it looks like it could be a bare head. Like, this could just be a bare character as opposed to like a person wearing a mask. So that's how I
That's what I
actually
always
view
think
it.
about my mask. Like, I don't feel
Yes.
like my mask is like a robot. I feel like it's a dragon.
Yeah, same here. I feel like this is a black bear or a black panda bear or whatever. And then it is my kind of first NFT really, that was a gift to me, and I really like it, and it was picked for me with me in mind. So like I love, like I'm super curious, and I'm totally the person that will like browse crypto voxels and go into random galleries and that kind of thing. And so holding an Alice in Wonderland book like pretty much feels like what I'm doing now, which is, or have been doing, like just like a rabbit hole into the NFT space and the crypto space, which is super cool. And then it has blue eyes, and I do too. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm just like super into that.
Who gave it to you?
My partner did. That was my like initiation into it. He's like, you should get. I mean, he's been into crypto forever, since like 2013. And then he got into NFTs, as well, and luckily he aped in. And then it's actually funny. He showed it to me. He's like, "What do you think? Do you want one of these apes, or do you want one of these hash masks?" And I'm like, "I want a hash mask." So
Initiation. Here's a
yeah,
hash mask.
that's right. So that's kind of how it happened. But and then I just went with it and collected it and all kinds of stuff. And I
What
mean,
about this thing here? What is this?
I think that was supposed to be a relic, but now it just looks like abstract art. But let's talk about the rest of these masks. Also, we have a floating person in
Pause.
here. That's hilarious. I love it. Let's go to this one. This seems like it's a good place to be. This first guy, because well, let's give a background. So you and I kind of went through, and Maddie's too, to some extent. Like we had a call for submissions, right? And we wanted people to answer the call for word on the street, and how they wanted to interpret that. And so we'll have a bunch of folks that have done that with their community submission, but also we had masks that we picked that we thought would be like really good to represent the collection, and that's kind of what you helped out with. So yeah, I want to go through and talk about all of these. So let's start with this Albert Einstein one, which is like, oh, it looks so much like it. I could totally see it.
Right. Yeah, this mask, I really love this mask. It has a really cool background story, which is also a bit personal to me because I used to own a hash mask. I still own the hash mask, but it used to be named. And for everyone who's watching and heard about hash masks for the first time, you can name hash masks. So I used to have a hash mask that was called Albert Einstein. And then this person hit me up. Yo, you just disappeared. Okay.
I just
You
floated.
flew up.
I wanted to get up just a
Hmm.
little bit taller to see it, but instead I went like way up.
Yeah. So I used to own the name, and this person hit me up, and he's like, "Hey, I want to buy your name, the name of your hash
Oh,
mask." And I was
what?
like, "Yeah." I
That's
was just like, "You want to buy
amazing.
the name, not the hash mask?" And he
What?
offered me 0.4 ETH for it.
Wow.
So I was curious, like, why do you want to buy the name? And then he showed me this hash mask, It just matched. Like it just looks much like a lot
Oh,
like
that is
Albert Einstein.
so
It's the
cool.
perfect name for this mask.
It totally is. And I love that, like, of all the books, because there's, I think 22 different titles for books, I believe. Um, having,
Hmm.
like, holding around the world in 80 days is pretty amazing. Because it's so much about, like, innovation. Jules Verne's writings are all about this kind of, like, sci-fi, like classic sci-fi. So, yeah, that's super cool. What about this Robocorn? I love the name. Am I still floating? No, I'm not. Okay, good.
No. Well, Robocorn is very historic to the Hashmask community. It was the first unicorn that was ever discovered.
Oh,
So
wow.
when Hashmasks, yeah. So when Hashmask first launched, like no one had like an overview of all the Hashmasks. It was kind of like it was just a bunch of links on a page, and you had to click on each link to look at what the Hashmask looked like. So it felt like you were kind of digging through this a huge amount of this huge array of links and just clicking each one and checking what did the hash mask look like. And there was this huge phase of discovery that the community went through, just figuring out the different traits, because back then the traits weren't organized in a way that, like, now you have collections, they come out and you have the traits instantly on OpenSea. Back then it was, here's a hash mask,
Right.
the traits are not listed, no one knows the rarities. And yeah, we were just like, there were about 100 people in the Discord, and we were all just going through the hash masks and like digging through them and looking for traits. And then someone posted this unicorn, which was just mind blowing to everyone there, because no one up until that point had seen a unicorn before, a unicorn hash mask.
Oh,
And then we
man.
just yeah,
That must
so
have
we
been
just started
so
calling it.
awesome to not have
It was
OpenSea and Rarity
so
Tools and all
cool.
that.
It was so cool. And listen to this. We started calling it Robocorn in the chat.
Yeah.
I remember this guy Flip Drago. He was like Robocorn, and then everyone started calling it Robocorn. And then after the hash mask sold out, like a couple days later, someone who was actually in that first wave of people in the Discord got this mask and named it Robocorn. So the
What?
prophecy came true.
That's amazing. That is so awesome. And there's two types, right? Because there's another unicorn mask too. So if you're curious, go check out the Hashmask collection and find the two unicorns, because there's more than one type,
Definitely.
which is
Yeah.
super
I think
cool.
there's actually three.
Oh,
I'm
are
not
there?
sure.
I know there's definitely like the one with the wider eye openings that I remember. But yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm glad there's one kind of in here representing. That's amazing. But also, as you all already know, I'm really biased on animal masks.
On animal masks,
What about
yeah.
what about possessed? Because I mean, we walked in here and we saw that giant mask right at the museum in the corner there. This I mean, I know this mask is called the Nibbler, which is, I guess, after what, the Futurama character with the teeth,
Hmm.
which I think is kind. I mean, it's interesting. It reminds me more of the times whenever that, like, Man in the Iron Mask kind of era was. The like medieval times, or I don't know. They're just looking at, like, it looks like one of those metal iron masks or something. But I don't know the history about this specific one, possessed. But I do like this mask type, and I actually recently acquired one that I really like. Obviously, the shadow monkey. Like, let's not forget about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the name is really matching to the mask itself. It was actually one of the masks. It was the finalist next to this other mask right here, Draco.
Yeah.
So these two, we had a mask competition, a tribe competition, where basically groups that own different types of masks. So there was a dragon group and there was a shadow monkey group.
Yep.
They banded together and they had to work together to create like different types of lore and all kinds of things around a single hash mask. And this one was the one chosen by the shadow monkeys. That's where this kind of structured poem down here is coming from,
Yeah.
below. And yeah, these two, Possessed and Draco as well, like on the left here, they were the finalists in this tribe competition.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
So
speaking of
yeah,
Draco, I mean, like, he's like your distant cousin if you look at your mask in terms of being a golden robot with a dragon, right?
yeah, Draco is an absolute beast.
Yeah, that's
I love this
amazing.
mask.
It's awesome. And I mean, for anybody here, like obviously we're going to kind of just, gloss over and touch on some of these, but for anybody here, I'll put the link in down below in the description to this museum so you can come and check all of these out. And for some reason, the poem below, I know what it looks like. It's not rendering for me here in the video, but if you guys come and check it out, you'll see there's actually like a really cool poem below Possessed. Okay, let's cross over underneath our floating persona here.
I actually want to say like two things about this one mask, this Draco mask.
Oh yeah, totally.
So, now, like these days, if you go to NFT Times Square, every billboard or a lot of billboards have like different types of NFTs. And Times Square has become like kind of this place where everyone just goes to market their NFTs, and they buy billboards because it's very cheap. It costs like $10K to like rent a billboard, and you get a lot of eyes on it. So before that trend came along, Draco was the first, or at least one of the first, to my knowledge, the first NFT that was ever displayed in Times Square, because the main prize of the Hashmask Tribe competition, which Draco won, was that the Hashmask team funded a billboard in New York City.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, the first one
cool.
to make a public appearance, like as art, as a
display. It's got so much history, that mask.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, the whole project does, right? Like with all the new stuff coming out, and I think it's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm collecting a ton of different things, but it's amazing to kind of like, I know there are lots of other OG projects, but this is totally one of those as well. And yeah, I just think it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So here we are. There's a clown. That's a whole movement now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really crazy how the clown movement has developed into this whole cultural thing. I think it's the first example of NFTs actually being used to critique traditional institutions.
Yeah.
In a meaningful way.
So just some background for folks listening. Obviously, we already talked about the idea of being able to name your mask, which you can do. And so there's a group that is naming clowns after banks, and there's like a gallery of them. And so they really kind of, band together, and folks have been really, really bullish on clown masks as a result, because you can buy one and name one and be a part of that movement.
These are selling for insane numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, like tens of thousands of dollars, I think.
Yeah. I don't remember what the floor is right now, but at one point it was like 5 Ethereum, 7 even. I don't even know. It's,
I think 7 to 8, something like that.
Yeah, it's amazing how a movement can just do that. I'm gonna see if I can like float left to Lucy. Oh, I can. Yes. So this mask, or I guess the owner of this mask, popped into a Twitter Spaces last week, and I was just like, what?
Oh, really? What did he say?
He didn't say anything. He just showed up in the audience, and then I said hello, and he kind of stayed a little bit, and then left. I think he was just checking it out. But it was like, just seeing that mask, like it's so unique in terms of the blue aesthetic of the mask and the blue background, and like you just know this is Lucy.
Yup, it's very scarce. Like it's a one-of-one trade.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Lucy in the Sky so the name is Lucy in the Sky with diamonds, which is the person who owns this mask and named it has been around since the very beginning of Hashmasks.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a brief conversation with him, and he said something along the lines of, yeah, I was in the community early. I saw this mask. I knew I wanted it. And after a couple of months, he bought it for about 35 ETH, something like that. I think back in June, July, something like that. And then he ended up naming it Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which is also a Beatles song.
Yeah.
And it's also the inspiration for the trait, which was confirmed by a Hashmask founder. And it's also the name right here, the name below, is the maximum amount of characters that a Hashmask name can have.
Oh, wow. Well, that's super interesting. Yeah. I mean...
To me, this mask is very symbolic.
I agree. And speaking of using, like, character limits and names, wasn't this one here, the tiger mask, Away by the Sea, wasn't, like, an entire poem put into the name change?
Yeah, exactly. I think this was done. So basically, a name change costs about maybe like $80 or something like that.
Hmm.
So the name change does carry some weight with it. And the way the poem was done, every line of the poem was a name. So it was named the first line of the poem, then the second line in backwards order. So the current name is Away by the Sea, which is the
Right.
last line of the poem.
Oh, that's
And in chronological
so
order on the
awesome.
blockchain, if you look at it backwards, like if you were to look at the chain, at the code in chronological order, the poem would come up.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
it's
What a
really
cool
cool.
utility. Yeah, that is so awesome. And I really love Doodle Masks. I mean, here, I'm gonna drop down to Ethereal King here. Um, I love
Boom.
I love Doodle Masks. I mean, as you know, or maybe you don't know, I pieced together the full Doodle background for all these backgrounds and revealed kind of what it all looks like as one big
Yeah, I
picture. And
remember that.
it's just such a cool thing to see all of the like different things that are happening within that doodle. And so when you look at a background
So,
like this,
so what are
there's
some things that are in the doodle? Can you talk a bit about that?
yeah. Well, here let's look at this one on like behind Ethereal King. I mean, there is I discovered, I mean, this door is kind of obvious to people. I don't know where like the rest of the image leads to it. I personally think that on the left here, like this little guy, that's like sticking out. I feel like that's the flying spaghetti monster lore because I feel like those are all noodles next to him. But I don't, but I mean, you'd never know. I have no idea. I'm just speculating. And then, yeah, there's another mask that's concealed within the doodle. It's not in this one. You can actually see the very tail end of it between the robot's hand and the other arm. There's like a little flower here in that little space. That's part of like a bigger mask that's inside this. If we come across that particular doodle background, I'll call it out. But
Hmm.
Ethereal King is an interesting mask because it's got a crown, and that there's only a
It's
few.
what,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of six kings.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And again, like I just love the robot eyes on. I mean, any of them really. Like it's such a cool way to represent the mask when you put it on. It's got these glowing eyes.
It gives it like this glowing feeling.
Yeah, no, it's
And the
really cool.
Hashmask eyes, like to me, the Hashmask eyes are very special.
Oh,
That's what caught my attention, like in
all
the
of
first place. It
them.
was the eyes.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was somebody in the community that was doing a vector of their mask, and they were doing it. And then partly, I mean, it makes sense. They kind of want to, blow it up for like making a bigger image or putting it on the wall, kind of thing. And we can talk about Dolly in a sec, but I wanted to point out that they had one with just like regular human like eyes, but the irises are rendered with like all of the little detail. So when you vectorize that, the detail was removed. And when I looked at it, I'm like, no, no, it's really important to have that in the eyes. And actually, here I'll just turn to this one here. And like just I'll like try to zoom right in to just show the little detail. I mean, it's hard to maybe tell with. Oh no, you can kind of still make it out. It's a little bit hard because it's all pixelated and kind of cryptovoxely, but in the actual collection, if you browse it, if you look at the eyes of the human figures, they're really cool. But let's talk about dollies before we move on to the rest of the museum. Um, I mean, the theme was street art, and this is an example of a street art background. What I find really cool about these kind of backgrounds, too, is if there are glyphs and secrets concealed, you don't always notice them,
Yeah.
which I think is super
The thing, like,
interesting.
if you look at the corner here, like bottom left, there's a small whale.
Oh, yeah.
If you see it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing about like this mask really showcases to me what a just the fact that we're sitting here and we're referring to this as Dolly, as it has like this. In any other collection, it wouldn't have a name. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't be referring to it as Dolly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and of course, it like really matches the Salvatore Dolly, the little fox. Like to me, this mask just looks like Dolly. It's really cool. I also know the guy. I think Jack, who owns this. He's also a really dope guy.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It's a really good example of a hash mask. Okay. as we turn here, let's go to this one here, holding this awesome Republic by Plato. It's got a glyph. Just notice the glyph up top.
Ooh.
So I think this was a community submitted mask, right?
Yeah. Axiotheophilus.
Flius, yeah. And so we had community members kind of provide little anecdotes to go along with the mask. So this is this one. So it's just a, you know, I guess a really good example of a community member kind of, you know, bonding with their mask and naming it after a historical character and connecting kind of all the dots. So I think that's really awesome.
Exactly. Everyone kind of interprets their own mask in a different way.
Absolutely. Well, and like, look, one of our like really involved community members, Lemon Drop, this is his golden bot, and like he wrote a poem.
I love this mask.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lemon Drop.
Yeah. Hi, Lemon Drop. But look at, I'm almost want to like read this. Lemon Drop galore, etched in metaverse lore, human in the streets, degen in the sheets, the hodl is the new gold, to sell a paper handfold, meme wars abound, funny and funky, one item above all, rise of the shadow monkey. Like,
this mask doesn't even have a shadow
I know.
monkey though.
That's how iconic it is. You don't even need a shadow monkey to vibe a shadow monkey vibe. Well, I think he's in the shadow monkey crew. This one is really cool. I mean, there's a whole movement now with the gas masks as well. But yeah, this is an interesting little like lore someone made up for their mask about this idea of like a radioactive like world, post-apocalyptic, and how that snow in the background, you know, has some radioactivity, and they walk around the streets wearing a mask. Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know. I loved all the different kind of ways that people represented word on the street as well, whether it's because of the way that people communicate, or, you know, through their street masks, or just making up characters that, you know, have presence on the street. Like, yeah, it's super interesting. Here's another one named Kibo, and you know, this one was a personal mask. Kibo means hope in Japanese, and so you know, this person kind of submitted it in this kind of, you know, pandemic world, and kind of wanted to shine some hope on you know, on difficult times. So I think that's super wonderful. And then there's Berlin, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I want this mask so bad.
Oh, like, it's my favorite, aside from, you know, like Garulumen, the one that I love because it's personal to me in terms of kind of the look and aesthetics and everything. Like, this mask is just glorious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, my favorite mask is Sex. I gotta put that out there. It's not, I don't think it's in the museum, but
What does it look like?
we all know them. You don't know?
Oh, I think I know, but describe it for everyone.
It's like, it's got basically what Berlin is, what Berlin looks like, but the exact opposite. It's Berlin's evil twin.
Haha. That's awesome. For some reason, I don't have the one next to typo rendering for me. Is that just me or you as well?
Which one? This one?
Yeah. Do you see that one?
Well, no, I see it.
Oh, you do? Okay. Maybe I'll just quickly reload just to make sure that I see it too. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm still here. I'm just going to press reload on my page, and hopefully I'll get to see it and it renders. Oh, let's see. Yay, I got it now. Okay, I'm back.
Nice.
I didn't want to not be able to show that to people, so it was good to reload. But let's talk about this one here, this Crayon Mask. I picked this one because I actually loved what it said. Word on the street is that hidden zodiac signs predict NFT moon cycles, and I don't know why, but I just thought that was such a funny, like, it was the only thing they wrote. And I thought it was such a funny piece of commentary. I mean, obviously it talks about there's zodiac glyphs, right? But also just this whole, I don't know, it's somehow like in a coy, hilarious way to me summed up, like, you know, the state of NFTs and being in NFTs.
It's a funny statement.
Yeah.
Where's the zodiac?
Yeah. It just made me laugh.
Can you find the zodiac?
I don't know. I can't either. I mean, it could be in there. It may not be in there, but that's kind of part of it, right? Like, is it in there?
It is.
It must be.
Like, you're looking for a hidden glyph. Yeah. Something hidden on your mask that's going to give it value.
Well, and the thing is, on a black and white background like this, it's a black like little drawing, so it's super hard to find it on this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was super crazy back like in the day where I told you earlier about how no one used to know what traits a specific hash mask had
yeah,
and what rarity they had. So when people found out that some of these hash masks had hidden glyphs that had certain amounts of rarity,
yeah.
can you imagine the amount of craziness people were going through looking for hidden glyphs on every single hash mask? Like literally going through 16,000 hash masks looking for a hidden glyph to figure out whether it could be worth more, because if you find out that your hash mask has a hidden glyph, it's worth like 1 ETH more.
It's crazy. Like,
That was so fun.
what a fun thing. Like, yeah,
It was so much fun.
I love it. That's amazing. What do we have here? Oh, we have another robot. Botsquat. Yeah, yeah. This was a really cool mask too. I thought this was a good one to include.
Botsquat.
But also like
Good name.
the fact that they kind of make reference obviously to Jean Michael Basquiat and that whole kind of idea of influence, artistic influence. But this is the person that reflected on the fact that it's their first NFT purchase, and that's also like really awesome, right? That like your kind of passage into the project or passage into NFTs. This resonated with me because Hashmask was also my first kind of like NFT, so I thought that was cool. So look, in terms of typo, like the way the person submitted it, it ended up auto-correcting it because the word help in here should actually be typoed. So this, we need to eventually sort this out at some point, but it's supposed to say, let me introduce you to typo. He's here to HEPL, like HEPL, you to get the word out. And what happened was when we were doing all of the kind of transferring of the text, there was some auto-correcting that happened because obviously all of the automation now, it's like, oh, we see you have an error. We'll fix that for you. And it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
It's ironic, yeah.
It's ironic that typo got fudded out of having a typo ultimately in the museum. The actual automation grammar robots wouldn't let him through. It's so funny.
Oh,
but I love this mask. I mean, I kind of want to push for the renaming of it. I don't like the idea of calling the mask Nibbler because I think it just makes a really dumb cultural reference. So I think it could be called maybe Iron Mask or something of the like. But yeah, I really, I don't know. I love the way that these masks look in particular. I really like animal and basic masks. But I mean, hey, like there's something for everyone in this project, right? That's kind of the beauty of it all. Chessie is awesome. Like, it's just so cool.
Yeah. Great name as well.
Yes, Chessie
Coupled
the
with the chess
clown.
piece.
And a chess piece. And also, I mean, it's so cool how, like, the Queen's Gambit, I don't know if you've heard of or seen that show.
Yeah,
It really kind of popularized this idea of chess again, which I think is super awesome and super cool to get people kind of into it and start chess clubs again. And yeah, I think this is kind of also a bit of that cultural narrative and bringing chess back into the cool side of things, Okay, turning the corner. Oh yeah, this mask is super cool. I like this one.
Which one? Embryo.
Yeah, Erich Mocelli's Embricata. I believe the name is a species name. Is it for a turtle? I thought it was for a turtle.
I have no idea.
But otherwise, it's kind of cool. I liked what it said too. This brief kind of commentary on, because some people told personal stories, and others kind of had this like big cultural narrative. Like instead of a phone, my mask holds a mirror to remind himself of his humanity. This kind of like idea of man in the mirror, turning the mirror onto yourself and viewing it. So like, it's just an interesting collection to me in terms of like some of the narratives that people submitted are more about them or about the lore, or they're lighthearted, and some are these kind of like Kibo and Hope, or this one like a bigger kind of narrative on on humanity. And then turning here to Burning Man, like that's somebody I think the owner of this mask also has Coachella. He's got two of like these giant popular festivals. Both have like quite different, values and missions and cultures behind them. But it's so interesting, again, to take something like a mask where, like, this is actually fitting because if you've ever been to Burning Man or have heard about it, it's in the desert. So of course you're going to wear protective equipment on your face. That's kind of part of it. So,
yeah, and then the yellow background as well.
yes, exactly. It's just such a good mask to name Burning Man if you've heard of the festival or know anything about it, because it's exactly that kind of like color scheme and look to it. So yeah, I really like that
Right.
one.
I've always really felt like this mask represents Burning Man really well. I think the person that named it did a really good job.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why it's in here. I'm like, yeah, this has to be in here. So, you know how I talked about Doodles? Okay, so not Mephistopheles, but the one to the left that we'll get to. I'll show you that mask kind of that I saw in it. But back to this one for a second. I mean, this is a devil mask, and those are really cool. I don't know how many devils there are, but they're not.
About 36.
They're in the Indian category of masks. And
Yep.
yeah, there are not many of them. They have different colors. There's purple ones, and yeah, it's a really cool mask. And Mephistopheles is a really interesting name to give this particular mask. So yeah. And I like the doodles that have some of these like extra colors on top of them as well. Yeah, the doodles are such a cool background. There's just so much going on.
There's 3 of these horses that are up here, the 3 horsemen.
Yeah, yeah. So coming to this one now, Hashmask number 4322, which is cool because not every single mask is named. If you look above its head to the left, you will see 2 eyes, an arrow pointing up as kind of a nose and a mouth. And if you actually
I see it,
if
yeah.
you actually isolate that looks like a mask.
It looks like a mask. I see it.
Yeah, and I've
It looks
isolated.
like it has those clown things, like, that thing that
Yes.
clowns wear around
Yes,
its neck.
that's right. Yeah, I've isolated the whole thing in my doodle, and you could really look at it and see it. It's kind of neat. It also looks like a character, but if you really look at it, it's got like a foot coming out on the left, and an arm on the left, and an arm to the right.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. So like when I spent a bunch of time staring at this, I was like, wow, I see that in there, and yeah, it's super cool. But anyway, yeah, this is an example of a Chinese mask, which is cool as well. And an example of that of that type of mask. There's several different Chinese masks in the collection, and yeah, this is one example of it.
Looks cool.
Yeah, and the colors kind of like really stand out against the orange.
It's a nice pattern.
Then we have Mars, a fellow animal mask, woot woot, and the pixel background is just so cool. I got so my partner, who also has a couple of hashies, his latest one, I just stole it from him because I saw it. He loves pixel stuff. He's like a creative coder and programmer, so for him pixels are amazing, and he loves the bots. But he really really liked the idea of mixing the bot with something organic. And so I looked for a while to just find any bot that has a mannequin glyph, because that would be kind of that idea, right, of like human versus robot. But I ended up finding one that was kind of like this pixel, a little bit bigger, I believe the pixels are, and then this kind of bot, but it has a basic mask that's just the wooden one. And I just right away, I'm like, yep, buy now, instantly, that's mine. And I gave it to him, and he's super excited about it. But because it has that juxtaposition of like wood, right, which is so organic and natural, right on like a metal bot. And I like this as well, this idea of like this like living animal, like, organic nature on top of like a very like a machine, basically, right?
It's really cool how much thought you put into buying your mask. Like, most people just click the buy button or whatever.
I know.
And here you are, like, going into like super deep conversations, the juxtaposition. I think it's cool. Yeah, it sounds really cool. Like, I think actually the thought that goes into that, like, gives it value to me.
I feel like in the Hashi community, there's an art critic in all of us. We're all like, I like this because of this. And it could be something super simple or something that you've thought about for like 2 years. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's all good.
It's true. Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a robot tiger coming in here to preserve the species in the museum, which they did. What else do we have here? We have a couple left. This is exciting. So we've got Rarity Tools, which is the most hilarious name for a mask ever. Like, yes.
Is it owned by Rarity Tools though?
I have no idea. But again, we have another, around the world in 80 days appearance, which is really cool. But this person actually like alluded to the book, and talks a little bit
This specific mask type,
it's abstract, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like this mask looks super chaotic though, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, they make a reference to Pablo Picasso starting their paintings on the street. And that's
Definitely.
kind of interesting, right? In terms of word on the street theme. All right, we've come to our final mask. So let's look at this. This is an example of a doodle mask. So we've talked about doodle backgrounds, which I'm going to look over here and show you again, like with the Chinese mask and the devil. But here we have doodle mask itself. So they kind of wrap it up and say like this is an embodiment of the creation of street art. So it's it's interesting, this idea of having the street background and having a doodle, because to me, like when I think of a doodle, I think of a person just kind of free flowing and doodling away, and it's such an interesting thing because I think to doodle it almost like implies that you're passively creating art, and sometimes it's very purposeful, I get that, but when we think about it, you're like, are you doodling? It's almost like a distraction thing, you know what I mean?
I do that all the time, like,
right?
when I'm talking a lot.
Yes.
I doodle in meetings. I do it all the time.
Same. It actually helps me concentrate on the meeting.
Exactly. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
I do it completely subconsciously. Like I'll just be doodling.
Yeah.
Then I'll just put it away and I'll look at it in like 3 days. I'll be like, damn, I drew that.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. So yeah, this is an example. There's several type of doodle masks, and this is one of the side views. There's also like a buffalo one that is kind of head on, and then there's like a tighter fit doodle mask as well. But yeah, again, this one is not named, and this is interesting. We have some that are named and some that aren't.
What would you name it?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. Let me see.
It's hard.
I know. This is it. We have a naming contest coming up next week. So that'll be super fun for people to get in there and get masks that don't have names or rename masks.
I got the name. What
do you got?
It's a combination of street and doodle.
Is it strudel?
Yeah. Do you know what a strudel is?
Yeah, like a pastry, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. There. So to the owner of 8405, you got to name your mask strudel for naming day next week.
Do it.
Because we told you.
Do it and you'll win.
I'm gonna walk outside as we wrap up and just kind of like do a turnaround and show folks. Well, here, I'm gonna float and back out just so folks can see kind of some of the exterior of the museum. I think it looks super cool. We still have our person floating.
Hello.
That's funny. Well, thanks so much for coming on this tour with me, and anyone who's joined us for this or watching now. We appreciate you checking out the Hashi Museum. There's going to be a new show at some point. We'll stay tuned for that. I'll link all of the things in the description below. And so you can visit the museum, you can visit the OpenSea collection and get one for yourself and name it. All of that, the stuff will be there. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.